Bull Bear Buzz Podcast for decoding markets, fueling minds. Okay, welcome back. You've joined us on, well, quite a day for the Indian stock market. It's Thursday, April 17th, 2025.
A big day.
Huge. The Sensex just exploded, up over 1,500 points, and the Nifty 50, over 400 points up.
Yeah, serious gains across the board.
And what's really interesting, this is the fourth day in a row we've seen this positive movement.
That consistency is key, isn't it? Suggests something more than just a one-off bounce.
Exactly. So for this deep dive, we've gathered a bunch of expert takes, and the mission is really to figure out what's actually fueling this rally.
Sounds good. Lots of moving parts, I imagine.
Seems like it. The experts are pointing to, I think, 5 main things.
That sounds about right. You've got the U.S.-India trade deal hopes, some positive economic numbers.
The monsoon forecast, which is always huge.
Right. Then there's foreign portfolio investors, FPIs, buying again, and the big banks having a really small showing.
Okay, quite a mix.
Yeah.
Let's dive straight into that first one then.
Yeah.
The U.S.-India trade deal buzz. There's a real sense of anticipation there, it feels like.
Yes, definitely. Reports are flying around about the U.S. possibly offering more tariff exemptions. Seems like it's coming after that 90-day pause.
And the market's reacting just to the possibility.
Right.
Even before anything concrete.
That's what's fascinating. Just the hint of a better trade environment seems to be enough to spark optimism.
It's not just a vague feeling either. Pankaj Pandey over at ICICI Securities, he's pretty specific. He's suggesting the Nifty could actually hit 24,000, maybe even 25,000 in the next, 2 or 3 weeks?
Yeah, if the deal works out favorably.
That's a bold call.
It is, but it really shows how much weight the market is putting on this potential deal. You know, easing trade friction, it often lifts the global mood, too.
And Rahul Singh at Tata Asset Management, he has an interesting point. He thinks India is actually in a better spot now compared to before regarding these global tariff shifts.
How so?
Because of lower exposure to U.S. trade directly and strong domestic demand, basically cushioning things.
Right. So the internal strength acts as a buffer. Makes sense.
So even without a deal happening tomorrow, India's own economy is maybe amplifying the good vibes from just the talk of a deal.
That's a good way to put it. It suggests the foundation is solid, and a trade deal would be, icing on the cake rather than the whole recipe for growth.
Okay, driver number 2. The positive macro indicators. This feels more like the solid ground beneath the rally.
Absolutely. This is fundamental. The latest retail inflation number, the CPI, that's really caught attention.
And what was the number again?
It rose 3.34% annually in March. Now, that's lower than before, and actually the slowest inflation we've seen in over 6 years.
6 years, wow. Since August 2019.
Exactly. That's a significant cooling off.
And that fits nicely with what the RBI wants, doesn't it? Their target for FY26 is
4%. And they're also projecting GDP growth around 6.5% for the same period. So yeah, the numbers are lining up quite well.
stability and growth potential.
Precisely.
Pankaj Pandey also mentioned this, saying most indicators, inflation, crude oil, GDP forecasts, they're all looking, well, pretty good. He even brought up geopolitics, suggesting India might actually benefit from the whole U.S.-China trade dynamic.
That's an interesting angle. Global shifts can create unexpected opportunities, and India does seem strategically positioned right now.
Right. Okay, third factor, and this one's absolutely vital for India, the monsoon forecast. People outside India might just think it's weather, but it's so much more.
Oh, absolutely critical. It's the lifeblood of the agricultural sector, impacts rural earnings massively, which then feeds into overall consumer spending.
And inflation too, right? Especially food prices.
Exactly. A good monsoon helps keep food inflation in check, which is a huge part of that CPI number we just talked about.
So what are the forecasts saying? This is like good news.
Looks promising so far. The IMD, the official meteorological department, is predicting above normal rainfall overall. And Skymet, the private forecaster, is calling for a normal monsoon.
So double confirmation, more or less. That's got to be reassuring.
It really is. And the market likely sees this as a green light. If the monsoon delivers, it eases inflation worries.
Which could give the RBI room to maybe even cut rates later on.
That's the thinking. If inflation stays controlled, it opens the door for the RBI to potentially stimulate the economy further with rate cuts.
Makes sense. Okay, factor number 4. FPIs are back. Foreign portfolio investors seem to be buying again after maybe pulling back earlier.
Yeah, the taps seem to be opening again. The data showing FPI's bought Indian stocks worth around 10,000 crore just in the last 2 days.
10,000 crore, that's a serious inflow.
It's a significant amount, yeah. Shows renewed confidence from overseas.
And why now? Is it linked to the other things we've discussed?
Almost certainly. It's likely a combination. That pause in U.S. tariffs, the optimism about the trade deal we mentioned, plus the solid economic outlook.
It all paints a more attractive picture for foreign money.
Exactly. It seems to be boosting their confidence in India's growth story right now.
Okay. And the fifth key driver, the big banking stocks. We know how much weight they carry in the Sensex and Nifty.
Oh, absolutely pivotal. When the banks run, they can really pull the whole market up with them.
And they certainly ran today. ICICI Bank, SBI, Kotak, Axis, HDFC Bank all saw decent gains.
Yep. Looking at gains between, say, 2 and 4% on the Sensex for those names, pretty solid.
And the Nifty Bank index itself jumped quite a bit, too.
It did. A jump of over 2%, actually, getting quite close to its all-time high.
That's a strong signal about the health of the financial sector, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. It reflects wider confidence in the banking system, which is often seen as, a proxy for the broader economy's health.
So stepping back, looking at the wider market, it wasn't just the big names. Saw that something like 83 stocks hit their 52-week high today.
83. That's broad participation.
Yeah, includes names like ICICI, HDFC Bank, but also Party Airtel, SBI. It feels like strong momentum across different sectors.
It certainly points that way. And Vinay Rajani at HDFC Securities, he had some technical analysis on this. He noted the Nifty 50 is up, over 2,000 points in just the last 7 sessions?
Wow, 7 days.
Yeah, and it's getting close to its previous peak. Technically, he's saying the fact it's trading above key moving averages is a bullish sign.
Moving averages, basically showing the underlying trend is strong, right? Not just a blip.
That's the idea. It smooths out the noise. Price above the average generally means positive momentum, suggesting the uptrend might continue.
He even gave some specific stock picks, didn't he? SBI, Patanjali Foods, Ultratech Cement, with targets.
He did, along with the usual disclaimer, of course, always talk to a certified advisor.
Naturally. But it shows how analysts are interpreting the technicals. He mentioned things like breakouts and positive momentum indicators like RSI and MSBD.
Right, technical signals suggesting a potential for further gains in those specific stocks based on chart patterns and the speed of price changes. It sort of reflects that broader positive feeling we're seeing.
Speaking of individual stocks, Party Airtel really stood out today, up 3%.
And hit a huge milestone, right?
Yeah, market cap crossed 11 trillion. Only the 4th Indian company ever to do that. That's massive.
Yeah. Huge valuation. What's driving that specifically?
Seems like a couple of things. Good expectations for their upcoming Q3 earnings, for FY25 that is. Plus, they recently prepaid some expensive debt, which the market likes.
Cleaning up the balance sheet. Always a positive sign.
And analysts are apparently expecting their revenue and subscriber numbers to keep growing too.
Makes sense. Telecom's been a hot sector.
We also saw Adani Ports shares climb about 4%. There's a board meeting coming up about potentially issuing more shares.
Right, a preferential issue that often causes some movement ahead of time.
But it's worth remembering, looking back maybe 6 months, that stock hasn't performed quite as well as some others, despite this recent jump.
That's a fair point. Context is important. Company-specific news, past performance, investor sentiment, it all plays a role even in a rising market.
And didn't Fitch keep a negative outlook on them recently?
They did. Affirmed the rating, but kept the negative outlook, citing those ongoing U.S. investigations. So some clouds still there. And analysts like at Elara Capital, they see maybe slower logistics growth recently, but are more hopeful for next year. They seem to like Adani Ports within the port sector, though.
Right. On the flip side, Hero MotoCorp actually fell today, down over 3%.
Oh, what happened there?
They announced a temporary production halt at 4 plants, just for maintenance and supply alignment, they said.
Okay, so potentially a short-term blip.
Seems like it. They clarified some plants are still running and they don't expect retail sales to be it. But, any production halt tends to worry investors initially.
Even if they're projecting good long-term growth, news like that can cause a dip. Shows how company specifics still matter day to day.
Absolutely. So wrapping this deep dive up, it really feels like today's big market surge wasn't down to just one thing. It was a confluence, wasn't it?
Definitely. A powerful mix. You had the domestic factors like the strong macro data, the positive monsoon outlook, the banks firing on all cylinders.
And then the international angle, that renewed foreign investment, the FBI's coming back, and especially the optimism around a potential U.S.-India trade deal.
Exactly. They all fed into each other, creating this really strong, positive wave. The key thing now will be watching how these factors develop.
Especially the trade talks, will we see something concrete? And the monsoon, will it actually deliver as forecast?
Those will be critical to watch in the coming weeks and months.
Which leads us to our final thought for you listening. Given everything we've unpacked, the positive signs, the expert views, even those specific stock mentions, what areas or companies are you going to be watching most closely now? And what else do you feel you need to know to judge if this rally has legs? Something to chew on.